Today I'm gonna attempt and do my damnedest to try to shove as succinctly as possible 3 instead of the usual 2, which is the sweet spot for these videos. 2 lines per each video, because then it averages 20 to 25 minutes each, which is exactly what I want. It's just... But today, I'm going to try to 3, because this fucker, this loop down here, is short, it's to the point, and it is kind of integral to this sub-network of the greater and ever-expanding concept network for metro lines and regional rail in the Seattle/Sound region. Real quickly, as I always do, because it's kind of important if you like to keep track and you want to see the rest of the network as it continues to expand, make sure you check out the playlist, which is always going to be linked in the cards up above, and then of course linked in the description below and the pinned comment. And I cannot encourage it enough, because of course this is just phase 2 of at least 3 major phases in the Cascadia transit expansion project of mine. So check out that playlist below. We are going to start, as you can see, it's already there, with the Seattle line. This one's a little wonky, because if you had to explain it, like, well, what's the Seattle line? Is it just Seattle? Well, no, because on the north end, it just goes outside of Seattle's city limits as well. And it also starts or / terminates here on the south end, here in downtown West Seattle. But as it runs through Seattle, it runs through West Seattle. From West Seattle. See, this is why we can't have nice things, because if it's English naming conventions, nothing's fucking creative or inventive. It's just a little too straightforward to the extent that it gets confusing, because this is literally West Seattle. But then you might be thinking, well, what about this West Seattle? And in this case, it's more convoluted, because it literally starts and ends in West Seattle, the city, and then runs through West Seattle, not the city, but the city of Seattle's West Seattle. I hate everything. So it starts here at the, what I call the Tri-Line. I don't know how the stadium district got there. That's a bit weird. So it starts at the Tri-Line station, which ironically I call Tri-Line, and then I realized it's not a Tri-Line, it's a 2-line station. It just happens to have 3 stations, but then Tri-station or Tristion just doesn't work. So I'm just going to keep calling it the Tri-Line. I'll brand it as that. It's an unnecessarily long station for the Seattle line, but at least it forcefully connects to both of these, which is actually the second line we'll be looking at here pretty quickly. So it starts right here in downtown West Seattle, goes up through here along the main highway, and goes to the Port of Seattle. Next stop, as we see here, is the Seattle Stadium District. I just had to call it that because, I mean, it's straightforward. It's directly outside of Lumen Field. Who knows when they'll rebrand? So we'll just say the Seahawks Stadium, and of course, T-Mobile Park. Again, who knows when that lease is going to be up and if they'll renew it or not. So we'll just call it the Mariners Ballpark. So that is where that is. I didn't realize that this was here for some reason. Or at least I didn't realize this was that dense. It's actually not as dense as I thought it was either. Oh, that is so trippy to look at. I just saw it in like 3 different dimensions. That's really weird. And I'm not talking about the individual dimensions of the 3-dimension world. No, I mean like I saw it in like... Oh, dude, that looks so weird. It looks twice as tall as it actually is. And then all of a sudden you zoom in a little bit more, and then it looks like it, and then you actually see it for what it actually... That is so trippy to look at. It's got to be the angles. And then the lighting. I did not realize that until now. That's crazy. And obviously you can sort of see other stations here and there. These orange lines, like this one, these are the Ice Line stations. And then, of course, so the Intercity Express. And then, of course, the blue ones are going to be like the SeaTac one, actually, that you'll see a little bit later. Those are along the Cascadia Ultra High Speed Rail route. Both, of course, have their own videos dedicated and are in that playlist I mentioned below. So this is the Seattle station. Anyway, so the next one, of course, is Pike's Place. States for outside of that. Yeah, so you have a station here, and then you still have more infill you could do, and you could still continue to upzone this. I know it's fresh, so it wouldn't happen for quite a while, but eventually you could upzone, and there's even space here technically if you wanted to add another building there. It would be pretty cramped, but you'd be doable. Obviously, this is a great opportunity to develop something here. I actually, you know what would have been smart is if they didn't do this. Get rid of whatever the fuck this little spit of road is. Dead end it here, or better yet, dead end it here. Just get rid of this, because there's already this one here, and that's already still kind of congested, along with this. So just kill that thing. Put a roundabout here. Get rid of this, and then make this into one big building, or one big building all the way up to this corner, or you could put your 3 buildings here, because you'd have a 3rd one here. But either way, that's what should be happening there. And of course, we end up the next station, which is the West Seattle Center, is what I decided to call it, because it's really close to Key Arena. I will always call it Key Arena, just like I always call it the Rose Garden down here. And then, of course, we have here, and well, bam, we have Queen Bay. And as the notes here denote, Queen Bay, home of the Fudge Packers, just south of Shit's Hole Road. If you know, you know. The first one I feel like should be pretty obvious as a joke, plus it fits the Northwest way too well. And then this one, if you saw, I think it was the last video, pretty sure, yeah, it was, then you will absolutely, unequivocally understand this reference as well. And of course, again, this is part of that naming convention I have, where there's a district name here, there's a district name here, there's a district name here. And because it's kind of splitting the difference between all 3, you take one piece from each, and you call it that. And I shot the difference because I kind of wanted to put it here so that these people had better accessibility, and it's still relatively close to access through here into the Queen Anne neighborhood, but then it's kind of a little ways distance, and it's obviously severed away from those neighborhoods by the railroads, and so you'd have to use this one road or this road here and come all the way down to here. It didn't seem like a good idea, especially Americans means that everyone's just going to fucking drive at that point. Or Uber or something, which is kind of the antithesis of the point of mass, high-capacity, high-frequency transit, like a metro line. So, next stop is Market in 15th. Wabamski. Up here. In fact, actually, if you look at the University Loop, this is a station as well on the University Loop light rail. Again, watch the last video if you want to keep up. Next one is Loyal Crown Heights, right here in this area. That is a combination of 3 different district names, thus Loyal Crown Heights. And then we have Northgate. Now, this one was annoying for me because I really wanted to put one either here or here. But because of the length of the line, and then how many, wanting it to be a true metro, and then how many freaking stops I was going to have, I decided I could not have any intermediate stops in here in the first place. Though likelihood is, if they don't have it now, they will very soon have a BRT line running along this road. I would be really surprised if they don't end up doing that soon, especially with all the extra infill development and upzoning they're doing in the area. So you should be able to do this just fine. And then I knew I needed to put one in the North Gate as it's rapidly redeveloping and infilling and everything else and densifying. It's relatively close to this area. It's relatively walkable. Again, you have this path here to both the LRT line and also the ICE line. So it's pretty much perfection already for all those reasons. And the road confluences also kind of agree with that point. And because it's next to these 2 things and all the zoning, I knew I had to put one in Earthgate. So these 2 areas, or even the split difference, doesn't really work. So unfortunately, I had to compromise, and that meant these 2 had to go, and there's no infills here. But you could put an infill station, again, if you wanted to. That's the cool thing about this, and why I ask you guys for your suggestions, ideas on these videos. At the end of them is when I do it, but you know, because then that way you fellers can actually go ahead, especially if you're from the area, and let me know like if it would still be a better idea to just say fuck it and put one in there now, and you know, when you would build it, or you know, at some point in the future after it was built, say in 2030, because everything is apparently 2030 right now. Remember when it was 2020? I do. And like 90% of those things never got built anywhere in the country. So yes, and then the lake, What station? The last station is in Lake City, because apparently this is called Lake City. I don't think it is actually a city. I think it's a district or a neighborhood, but this is where I put this. So there is that. And if you're thinking, is there any lines going through here? Well, you'll just have to wait and see, now won't you? I already answered for yes, you will. Okay, next, the line, LINUS KLEIZA, is the West Seattle Burien, or Burien line. I usually say Burien. I find myself saying is Burien, not Burien, but I'm probably actually Burien. Burien. Okay, God, it's actually Burien. Fuck you. Okay, so first one we have, and technically last one, although again this is a loop, is you have the Tri-line. Admiral Junction is the next one. That's up here. That's this station. So for the north area of West Seattle, which ironically kind of has its own miniature version of a skyline slash, downtown, which is kind of cool, unexpected, but kind of neat. You wouldn't expect, especially in a place like this with this kind of canyon and everything, to be anything but exclusivist and therefore very NIMBY. But to my surprise, I found some actual density and slow additional infill going in, which is really cool. So good on you guys. Youngstown is the next one, because this area is, I believe, called Youngstown. It's like the road. I think it is literally the district is called Youngstown up here. So Youngstown is there. And then obviously, as you can see, there it is again, West Seattle Tri-Line, which is this segment here. So this is for the West Seattle Burien line. And this one is obviously for the Seattle line. So there, and then here. The next one is in North Gatewood, which obviously is the start and end of the little north end loop for it. That's why they would share the station. It's technically one station, it doesn't need two, which is actually good that you have a useless corner like this with a waste of space, although I do like the trees. I mean, at that point, I don't mind just keeping it that way. There's not really much you could put in there. You could try to shove the tiniest little footprint building and just like upzone it to like 6+ stories, and it wouldn't be bad. I guess you can make it work if you especially redevelop this slot, and then you actually made this into the main building, and then this was like a secondary one, and like maybe like it's multiple showroom floors or something for a museum or something, or maybe it's a community art exhibit area or something like that. I think that'd be kind of cool, actually. Dumb but cool. Very hipster though. But yeah, and then you put that there, and then obviously you have the next one being High Point. So High Point, and then even though this is technically supposed to be more of a metro, it has a lot of stops, so it kind of defaulted to being more of like a light metro slash weird streetcar line, weirdly long streetcar line. So Delridge here, South Delridge is the next one, and obviously the reason why I put this one here is because of this road here. And they don't really have any direct access to any stations other than this one if you're way up here. Otherwise they don't. So anybody like further south, let's say like from here south, doesn't really have direct access to a station, mainly because this stupid golf course is cutting them off. I fucking hate golf courses with a passion, I swear to God, man. They're such a waste of resources, water, space. They're such chemical dumps. Everything about them's terrible. Usually exclusivist, expensive. Everything is wrong with golf courses. Anyway, waste of fucking land. That's for damn well sure. South Delridge down here. But yeah, anyway, the reason therefore is the connectivity. They need this connection to at least one station, and so this gives them a little bit better optionality in terms of stations they can go to, because they have this one over here, they have this one down here now, and they also have this one up here, and even this one. So now they have 4 stations to select from. They're still each out of the way and partially blockaded, which sucks, but at the end of the day, they have their 4 options. White Center. We have a White City in Oregon. You guys have a White Center, apparently. It does kind of look like it's downtown, so actually might actually be a tiny city. After that, we have the Mount View / Inglesea. So this side is Inglesea, and this side I believe is Mount View. Don't ask me how that works. Also, it gives you this road access, which is obviously kind of pivotal. And then we have West Burien, but yeah. We have Highline, which is right here. And then, of course, last but not least, we have SeaTac, which is right here. And that leaves us with our last one for this video. And that would be DesBuriPort Loop. Des because Des Moines. Des Moines. Buri because obviously Burien. And then, of course, port because of the airport. So the DesBuriPort Loop has 9 stops. That much I do know. It is a 13.82 mile long loop, roughly speaking. So basically between 13.5 and probably 14.5 miles in reality. So we has that. So here we go with the loop. You can already see the loop. So SeaTac. And then we got Angle Lake right here, which is such a dumb name for clearly a man-made impoundment, but sure. Well, you know, it has a bit of an angle, so let's call it Angle Lake. As I said, that's why we cannot have nice things. Waterview Crossing right here, because that's the name of these apartments. And that's the only name I really thought made sense for this line. As you can see, sometimes I actually try to get particular and try to keep within a certain size range. It's usually 0.10 miles. It's literally just the perimeter measurement is 0.10, or in this case, up to 0.20 is where I try to keep these stations, especially for metro lines, within that range. And this is the access point to this corner. I felt like made a lot of sense, especially with the FAA building, actually. So I'm like, okay, let's have this corner have a direct access point, so anybody in these areas that comes from these roads, just nothing here apparently, can have better access to it. But there's no actual good naming convention for it, so I'm like, name it after the apartments. It's the only name I see that's relevant. I wanted to put one in here, but you can see that those are getting way too close together. So, in balance sake, Highline, because there's literally 2 areas called Highline within a very close proximity. This is called Highline up in here, and this is Highline College. But then, as you saw earlier, this stop is called Highline for some reason, which again just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, don't ask me how that happened. That's really stupid though. Guys should probably fix that up there. So the Highline station, as you can see, there is already a line that's going to terminate here on the west end of it. So this is that stop, portion of the stop, and this is obviously the loop's stop. So yeah, and of course you got the light rail line there too. And probably transit center at least on this side, because you already see an entry point here and then a loop. And this is the right amount of space on all sides basically for a TC, plus because this right here, I'm assuming this is a full-on transit center. And actually looking at this could turn into a transit center as well, it looks like. I don't think it will though. I really don't. It might, but I really don't think it will be a transit center on that side. That would be weirdly expansive. Like the only way I can see that happening is if they're confident that they're going to be able to like make a load of high density new development, infill development, and rezoning, and thus redevelopment of this entire vicinity. Then yes, I could totally see that becoming a major transit center, especially with all these different highways and stuff intersecting through Kent and everything else here. Des Moines, SeaTac, Burien, Normandy Park, all that stuff. Yeah, no, this is good to have a lot of excess capacity. I've spoken about that before at length, actually, is that the best thing you can do is always over engineer, so that way you are what I like to call pre-prepared. So in other words, you're intentionally adding the capacity, and you're taking up the space to where it's not necessarily in use now, not all of it at least, but it will be inevitably in the future. And so you pre-plan to make sure that you get ahead of that curve, so that later on down the line, in a few years or 10 years or 25 years, you don't have to actually acquire that space and then demolish something to then build to add that capacity to your transit system. You just do it ahead of time. And so that would be smart for this to do that as well. And then at that point, like, this kind of looks like they're going to put development here. In fact, there's like these weird outlines, which look like these are each individual buildings. But then that comes off as a non-apartment complex and more like townhomes or something, which is a terrible idea where it is. Like, That's a fucking devastating travesty if that's what they're going to do. They should make majorly high density buildings in here and like add paths through here to directly access the transit center here. Like this could become a path right here. Boom. Directly connecting to here. Up in here as well, but yeah. And then obviously, if you wanted to, you could do a bridge or a underpass for pedestrians and bicyclists to be able to cross over here into whatever the fuck they're doing with this, which looks like it's going to become new development as well, which would be intelligent, I'm assuming, very soon, especially with this. This road is clearly already set up to expand straight down through here. So that, in my mind, tells me, obviously that means they're going to add another one over here. That in my mind tells me that this is absolutely becoming another development. What I hope is it's not going to become another tech/office complex, and I hope what they're actually going to do is add some really nice high-density mixed-use development, because, medium and high density. Because again, I mean, look at this. You have the major highways, major thoroughfares here. You have multiples of those highways. Yeah, you have the light rail line now. You have a transit center, a huge transit center going in here. You have the interstate. Why in the fuck aren't you putting the big old, medium to high density community in here? That would make super perfect sense. There's so much land, and you could do so much good with that if you just make a proper major freaking hub, basically, of development like that. I mean, they already have a connection here too, like this. So I think it makes perfect sense, if I'm being honest. And in fact, they have the space here. This is tiny. Like, whatever the fuck this is, it looks like it's probably a public utility building. So what you could do is you could get rid of this. You can get rid of whatever the fuck's happening here. In fact, this either was a road at one point, or the original path of the road, or this was like a runway / taxiway for an old airport, which is actually probably the latter. But you remove this and all of this stupid shit. You can even requisition some of this if you needed to. You don't, but you could. And what you do is you take these areas right in here, and then you turn this into a big roundabout. Then that way you can add an entrance off of that roundabout right here into this community as well, which would make a load of sense for that matter. That would be really smart, actually. You could do something somewhat European too, if you wanted to, if you're going to keep developing around these areas and stuff. I know this is apparently a park. There's supposed to be a pond here, apparently. Sure. What you could do then at that point, hopefully keep all the rest of this green area though. I want that green space and the wetlands stuff to stay. The more of that, the better. But I'm so sidetracked right now. Interrupt myself so brutally badly. What you can do is you can do something very Europe styled, and you could put a roundabout here / traffic circle, so that way you can literally just pass through if you need to. So boink, boink, boink. But you can also, if you need to, you could slip lane yourself right off onto the highway here, right off of it, either direction, right? Perfect for that. And so boom, you can use the roundabout that way too. So you need to get onto the freeway and head up to SeaTac proper. Perfect. Even this, it's absolutely perfect for that. And then, in fact, this would be the roundabout too, right? So you do one of these. Boom, baby. Do you get into downtown Kent? Easy. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that's what should happen. It won't, but that's what definitely should happen. But it's America. We don't do things the way that makes sense here. So this is KDM, so Kent Des Moines, and 16th Avenue South is what I decided to call it. 3 different access points, pretty much. Technically, I guess it's 4, but next one is Des Moines. I kind of was hemming and hawing for a little bit here, about 10 minutes of like, should I put one like right here or right here, and then another one right here? I kind of wanted to do that, But then I'm like, nah, I should just split the difference, put it in the middle. It's going to be the more efficient, better option anyway, and then it keeps them relatively average spacing between each stop. So then the next one, because this doesn't really have that much development, I'm like, I'll just split the difference again. Go with balance, and this is where this one goes, which is 199 and a half Street. Because it's literally right between, smack dab between 199th and 200th here. So, and I believe this is 199th and this is 200th. So 199 and a half. I could have called it Normandy Park South or South Normandy Park, like I probably normally would do, but I just wound up keeping that name because I'm like, it's dorky and dumb enough. Fuck it, 199 and a half. Or 199 and a half Street. Next one, of course, is Normandy Park, which is actually properly, like, apparently just north of Central Normandy Park. There you go, Normandy Park Station. And then, of course, last but not least, we have Burien Transit Center, which is where this station, of course, comes into play. And obviously, the center island at these transit centers could not make more impeccable sense to put a metro station of any kind on top of. It makes perfect sense because then the entire bus, all the bus bays have perfect cover from the station itself, and then everyone has direct accessibility in and out from the buses directly to the train and vice versa. So it makes absolutely perfect sense to place them in the center islands, the main hubs basically in the center of transit centers. So therefore, well, bam, that's where that one is, and that is the DesBuriPort Loop. Probably a light metro line itself, if not a full-on metro or a full-on LRT/streetcar type of loop. By the way, I forgot to do the keys first. I probably will find a gap somewhere to put them on the screen for you. But basically, purple means viaduct, aka elevated trackway. Green is the transfer or the transition tracks into a different grade. So yellow is at grade, actually, which of course, because of SeaTac and the clearance for aircraft landing and everything, you have to at least make sure that that is low enough from like probably here to about here, which, as you can see, literally perfect for that with the transfer tracks between each. And plus, this is going further down as it goes this way anyway, directly into the orange, which of course is a tunnel. So those are the three different lines I have for this kind of sub-network in the ever-expanding, vast metro network and regional rail network, actually, for the Seattle/Sound region. So, feel free to let me know what you think about each of these three in the comments below. I genuinely would greatly appreciate it if you would let me know what you're thinking about these, especially if you live in the area or frequent the area. If you would use these, if you think that a lot of people would use them, if you think that the station locations made sense, if you think that the amount of stations makes sense, where you might put an infill station in at a later date. I am now partially cut off, I don't care. So on and so forth. Let me know in those comments below how you would do it differently, so on and so forth. That said, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, don't get hit by a Max Light Rail train. It's not even just partially kind of a gag and a joke at this point, like I'm actually serious. Just there is genuinely like an average of one person a month who tries to kill themselves with a Max train. Just don't try to turn into an Olympic sport like that, please. It's fucking ridiculous. And also, for those of you up there in the Sound Transit area, stop trying to make shivving random bus drivers and bus riders into an Olympic sport, because that's getting ridiculous up there too. It's like your version of our max jumping as an Olympic sport. You guys are like bus shivving, and it's just, you need to knock it off. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna drown myself in the Willamette River and all the sewage inside of it, if you'll excuse me. It's very important. Isn't it neat? Isn't it snazzy? After like 7 years pretty much straight, probably almost on the nose actually, since we moved here, and thus since for 7 years of content on this channel, This was not here. It was something completely different. It was that white thing behind me, like cabinetry of some kind that was behind me, and now it's this. Buster and Franklin have been rescued from atop that thing, and now they're here in your sightline. And then there's the basketball for shameless self-advertising, which you couldn't even read if you wanted and hoped to. What the fuck even has scrawled upon it like Madman Graffiti, which I guess now that I think about it, definitely fits that description. Sticks, because my favorite band of all time, and some Yanni, because, of course, and Kermit. And, of course, you know, my lits. And a painting my brother Nathan did. It's cool, the almost exchange of things that you and your neighbors in an apartment complex can do for free, because they just need they replace something, they need to get rid of something, so they just plant something out there for free, put the free on it, you take what you want of it, and then if you need to replace something else yourself, like I did with the cabinet, I just haul the fucking cabinet by myself outside, this whole fucking thing that's taller than I am, and put it where you got this from. And then you replace it with that. Which I was really excited to do, because I thought, oh, this is gonna feel so good, and it's gonna look so good, and it kind of does to me. Anyway, in pretending that that's the point of this video, it fucking isn't.